So we're here with Amy Mulligan, and she's with the Chat Adams Show, and she's agreed to share her personal views that don't represent anybody else on minimum wage. So my first question is, are you in favor of raising the minimum wage?
No, I'm not.
Would you like to explain why you would not like to raise the minimum wage?
Yes, so a lot of my study of economics has been more of Austrian economics, so Mises is someone that I've studied quite a bit, and when you look at economic models, you know, the minimum wage in general creates unemployment and often hurts the very people that it's looking to help. So increasing the minimum wage, in my opinion, would really, at the end of the day, it doesn't help anyone. I think it hurts both the consumer, I think it hurts the employer, and I think it hurts the employee.
So Mises, von Mises, he explains that very well. And basically, it's the law of supply and demand, right? If you raise the price on something, you get less demand.
Right, and not only that, but again, it's costing the employer who might want to employ low-wage employees, but when you increase that, then they end up losing their job. I think that the minimum wage altogether needs to get rid of, and we need to have the enforcement of contracts and allow employees and employers to make their own contracts.
So let's talk about the fundamentals, moral fundamentals of this issue. But before, I'd like to say that I agree with you that this minimum wage absolutely hurts the people that it's intended to protect. The least productive members of society are the ones who become unemployed when the minimum wage goes up. So it's very cruel to these people that are trying to get into the workforce, or for some reason or another are not very productive and they can't be paid too much. So the fundamental of this issue, in my view, is the answer to this question. Should you respect adults' decision regarding what kind of wage to accept, or should you not respect their judgment?
Well, I think first, yes, you should respect their judgment, what wage that they would prefer to accept. But beyond that, the government's job isn't to force a company to pay their employers a certain wage. That's nowhere found in the Constitution. That's not their job. And I think that if we return to more of a free market style where, again, contracts were enforced, I think that you would see wages rise for those employees who were at the employer for a long time or did have a higher level of education.
Well, I think you brought up an excellent point, which is this is not a proper function of government according to our Constitution. So I was trying to identify the moral question involved, which is not respecting another adult's judgment and decision when it's not violating anybody else's rights. Isn't it his life, and in a free country, his right to decide who to work for as long as the other person agrees, how much they get paid as long as the other person agrees, voluntary relationships based on mutually perceived self-interest.
Exactly. I think that's a fundamental right that you and I, you asked me to do an interview and I agreed to that. So yes, as both adults, we both can agree what we do want to do and what we don't want to do. So as far as the government's role, right. I mean, morally, I should be able to decide what I do with my life, my liberty, and my property. That's what our country is based on. And these voluntary exchanges, that's a part of liberty.
Absolutely. And I think you applied the principle very well. Sometimes I do ambush interviews, but not yours. I only do that with politicians.
Well, good. Someone's got to ambush them sometimes. They do it to us constantly.
Well, gosh, Amy, it's been great interviewing you. It was a lot of fun, and it's interesting how we share almost every viewing, including our favorite Austrian Economics author.
So much. I appreciate it. Yes.
Give me a card so I make sure I send you a copy of this.